like someone who's straight off the street has to go to OTS, like once you hire them. They're not coming from ROTC, not commissioned as an officer. Like, is that looked at differently? I mean, or does it matter? Is it different slots, different pools of money?
We looked at it. I built, we had a guy who ran the hiring board before me. He built this matrix, just like scoring matrix. And I kind of used that to score all the applications. And one of them that we put in there was like, are you already commissioned? Are you an officer? Are you enlisted? Do you already have some type of clearance? Maybe that's just a risk mitigation type thing. But as far as the board went, we took that stuff, like factored that in, but like we hired a dude who is already unsponsored in UPT. So, my similar path, we hired a guy from our unit that we know well, it's enlisted. And then we hired a dude right off the street. So something that we talked about and thought about, but didn't necessarily go into like a determining factor. The biggest one that we kind of looked at was age, time in service already, if they're prior enlisted or already an officer. Because they all got to go through they all have to go through the B course. The timeline, when they're going to come back, how we're looking, do we need more young dudes? Do we have the bandwidth to do MQTs and upgrades for those guys? Was really kind of the biggest contributing factor for like what we picked for like timeline, time and service type stuff. But then looking at the unsponsored guys, like, yeah, we're probably going to get him a little bit sooner. Does that work out for us? He's doing well. He doesn't have to go through. He's already has his flying class 1 done. A little bit less risk there. So I think that kind of goes into some units decisions to how much risk they want to take. If it's all off the street, they still got to go get a clearance, do flying class 1 at right pat, all that stuff. So it kind of, depending on what the unit wants is at that time is kind of what the decision turns into.
Yeah, that being on the board, I will say like this person has to go to OTS, like we have to send this person to OTS, become an officer, or this person is already an officer. I was happy to see that money was never a discussion. We actually never discussed it. We're like, do we have the money? Well, it'll save the Air Force money to have this person, to choose this person over this person because we don't have to send them to OTS. I was happy to see that. And what I got afterwards was just like, the money is already allocated to take someone off the street to fighter pilot. The only thing, just like Conan kind of talked about, is another thing that was just, this whole experience was mind-boggling to me. And I'm glad I got to see it and then get to talk about it and share it and get more knowledgeable about it. But the person who's, and I'm going to define these off the street people here in a second, but when you take someone that hasn't gone to OTS or anything like that, we were having this conversation where we were like, we probably will not see this person back in the Snakes as an F-35 wingman for like 5 years. Is they're going to go through the full commissioning process, which that doesn't actually take that long, but then they're going to go to pilot training. Any breaks in pilot training, whatever the pilot training pipeline is, then they're going to go to B course, and then they're going to come back to here. So that's like two 1 year long processes that have breaks, and where it is possible that we won't see this person. Like, I might retire before I see some of these people come back. And I just thought that was wild, but I was very happy that money was never a factor. And then when we talk about the off the street, we use that phrase colloquially, like we're just hiring this dude off the street or this person off the street. Conan can elaborate some more, but these dudes were doing jobs and had resumes that were incredibly impressive. And the guy, when Conan says the one person we did hire off the street, he's like, yeah, I left my job with Google to go work for Dell after I was a D1 track star at Clemson. And I was like, oh, sick, dude. Like, welcome to pilot training. And I was just like, it was wild to me. And we could bro chat about some of the backgrounds that these dudes were having that we asked them about. And I was like, that you're the most interesting man in the world. And anyways.
Well, on that thread, because Conan, you mentioned the matrix, right? So imagine, at some point we're always trying to like quantify, the gray area or these
Yeah.
nuanced things, right? So, all right, hey, GPAs, boom, that's a hard fact. You got a 4.0, a 3.9, it is what it is. Like, there's just some things that aren't going to change. So I imagine like that gets, all right, boom, that's part of the matrix. But it's all the other things like, yeah, dude, I worked for Google, Dell, I ran a team of 100 people, I was a D1 athlete. Like, that's like the gray, the nuance, the subjective piece. How do
Right.
you guys, how do you look at it? How do you score it? How do you quantify that to pick a person?
So this was not scientific whatsoever. But reading through the resumes, like I would go through them. I had a couple other dudes help me, but we had over 400 apps to kind of go through. And I'd read through them. It's like GPA, AFOQT, pilot score, Pixum score. Do they do college athletics, high school athletics? Community service was one of them in there. And then there's probably a couple other ones that I'm not remembering, but my last one was the favorite one. And that was just board president score. Completely subjective, how I felt in the moment. Did I go fly? Did I have a terrible debrief? Am I pissed off? Timing's everything. But it was like highly interested, curious, thanks but no thanks type deal. And it was all just like a thumbs up or like a thumbs down as I'm reading these things. But that's where it kind of came in for the subjective score, was like, on paper, or do you seem interesting? Do you have a really cool background? Could you bring something to the squadron that we don't have already? And then from there, it's like, cool, can you come out and meet us? Can you come out and visit and rush? Is kind of what I use that for. But I definitely try to pick some of the more interesting backgrounds, stuff that showed, challenges or something difficult that they've been through. Whether that's a little bit of personal life, if they're sharing that in a cover letter or not, but job wise, and just trying to see, like, you're really just making a quick decision of like, cool, do I think this person's got it or not? Are they worth asking them to fly out here and meet them? But yeah, that part's all subjective. And then we kind of had a cutoff score as far as yeah.
How many of you guys are sitting on the board, and how much time are you looking at each resume? Because that, I'm thinking PRS, right? We got like 2 minutes to look at something. Is that what you guys are kind of doing too?
Yeah, for the board, I think we had like 6 people on the boards for the interview process. But as far as picking out who we're going to interview and just who we're going to invite out, like, that was me and a couple other dudes, a random Thursday afternoon, just looking through these, maybe 5 minutes at a time. I would say every unit's going to do it differently. But for me, like, the biggest things that I looked at was reading their cover letter and then trying to get a feel for who that person is on paper, looking at their test scores, and then looking at the letters of rec, seeing if there's names that we recognize. So that obviously goes a long way, kind of having that bro check. And then, looking at the resume and seeing kind of what stands out, and then making a decision to invite them out. And then we did, I felt so bad. I feel like I just drained the squadron of energy and life, but almost for a year, I would have like 10 people come out every single UTA. And then we did 2 big rush events where we invited like 50 to 60 people come out. And we can get in more of that later if you want. But then from there, we kind of, I would just go pull the squadron and be like, hey, what do you think of this dude? What do you think of this person? And then I made a list of like 30 final applicants, and then over UTA had their pictures up, quick blurb on the resume, and it was really a thumbs up, thumbs down from the squadron who we want to invite out for interviews. So, we took the list from, 400 applicants, probably had over 100 come out and visit, pared that down to 30, and then again down to 12 people to interview.
Rain, we had a guy who all of us like wanted to hire. Like, you got these three jobs for 460 some applicants or whatever.